Reiner and him, the connection between them was that Arnold had worked at a jewel warehouse where her father also worked. There was also the fact that, according to some newspaper research, the police had gotten a tip that his ex-wife had been committed to a psychiatric ward at a hospital, which just happened to be across the street from the store where Mary Reiner purchased her Tylenol. So this is two connections to her. Oh, and by the way, he was a do-it-yourself chemist.
Oh, okay.
Because when they searched his house, they found unregistered guns and chemicals and beakers and funnels. Oh my.
Fun.
Yeah.
Probably just using them to make LSD or something.
I don't know exactly what he was doing, but what they found was not what they wanted. And by they, I mean the cops. Because he didn't have potassium cyanide, he had potassium carbonate, which is harmless. It's not going to do anything to you. I don't know what he was using it for. And he never said, this is a quote, this is the greatest quote ever from somebody who's in trouble. I'm not saying what the chemicals were used for, but it was nothing illegal.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take his word for it.
Yeah. He got charged, he got charges for the weapons and assault. I think the assault was something related to his wife, prior issues between he and his wife. But he didn't take this so well. He got pretty worked up, and he carried a huge grudge about it for a while. One of the interrogators actually said that they quoted him as saying, "I'd like to be on the homicide of the guy that turned me in for what he did to me." So he's got a huge beef with whoever called him in.
Probably forgiveness would have been a better path for him,
I
considering
think,
how it all turned out for him.
I'm just looking up uses of potassium chloride.
Carbonate?
Carbonate, sorry.
Okay. Will you let me know what you find? I'm going to tell everybody.
Glass and china production.
Okay.
Drying agents. You can use it to make grass jelly, which is a Chinese and Southeast Asian food.
It's got a myriad number of uses, but nothing.
You can make mead or wine with it.
Ah.
You can suppress fires.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's you see it in fire extinguishers. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a couple things. None of them seem particularly
interesting.
Treacherous.
No, not at all.
But it's interesting what I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'm not going to tell you what I used it for. But it wasn't illegal. Like, why wouldn't you just tell them what it is then?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for all I know, the guy was using it to cut coke.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have been doing something as simple as that, as he was selling cocaine on the side.
In fairness, it's illegal.
Oh, yeah.
But,
which is why he wouldn't say anything.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's not illegal to use a potassium carbonate until you actually cut the coke with it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's true. Until the cocaine comes into the equation.
True.
Yeah.
Technically, Joe's right.
Technically, he's right.
Well, here's where everything kind of careened off track for him. There was a guy by the name of John Stanisha, I want to pronounce it. Anybody?
I'll go with Stanisha.
Okay. Stanisha didn't know Arnold. He had been out. He'd had some drinks. It was last call, and he was leaving the Lincoln Avenue bar on the 18th of June, 1983. So this is a full year, or not quite a year after the poisonings. Arnold saw him, believed that he was the same heavy-set man that he remembered probably being the one that ratted him out or called the cops.
The dude he was drunkenly saying stuff to.
Right.
Yeah.
So he walked up to him, he yelled at him, "You turned me in," and he shot him point blank.
Ooh, that's not great.
And killed him.
Not smart, yeah.
Not the best idea.
No, Arnold was tried and convicted and sentenced to 30 years for murder, but there was never any strong connection to him for the Tylenol.
No, I don't think so either.
It was the wrong place and time.
He probably just made a stupid joke.
Probably.
He may very well.
He gets drunk and is like, "Oh yeah, I did that to cover up my wife's murder."
Or he knew the girl and was like, "Oh yeah, that girl was a bleepity bleep bleep, and she got what she deserved." And people are like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Okay, hang on here.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Okay, we ready to keep going? Yes?
Yeah.
Good. Because the next
Yeah.
one up on our list of suspects,
Isn't really.
it's a terrible name because it's based on a profile. It is an unknown antisocial / angry at society male, likely white.
Which
I
is
mean-
sexist.
Let's be fair, though. That's probably the profile of whoever did this.
It is.
Typically, guys are more likely to murder than women are.
And
but
you
it's
would have to
still
be
sexist.
antisocial and angry at society to do something like this. I mean,
The thing that I shake my head at every time about this profile is profiles work because they help you pin it down on somebody.
this could be anybody.
It's pretty vague.
This profile is so vague it borders on useless.
It
to
could
me.
be Joe.
Yeah,
Oh,
really?
wait.
It
I'm
could be.
very
Were you in
antisocial and
Chicago in the
angry.
80s?
He was, wasn't he?
not telling.
No, I was nowhere near Chicago at any time in the 1980s.
Okay.
I gotta tell you.
Here's the profile. The profile was of someone who was angry at society and wanted to lash out at it, and they believed that person was at the time or possibly had received psychiatric care.
Okay. So all of Chicago.
This subject could have also complained about how society was wronging him and probably tried to contact someone that he considered to be in a position of power. That person didn't recognize his communication or basically refused to listen to him,
Said, hey, dude, you're crazy.
which made him angrier.
Yeah.
The Tylenol killer would have lived, obviously, I think we've established this, in the Chicago area and had a decent knowledge of at least the neighborhoods that this took place in. This is where I go, this is really a borderline profile. He had to own a vehicle to get to the distances between each store. That just
Of course.
cracks me
Well,
up.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's true, but okay.
I don't either. Could have taken a bus.
It could have happened over months. I mean,
Could have
you
gone
don't know
the L.
when they were put.
Yeah. I mean, there's a million ways to get around in Chicago.
Yeah. So
It's
doesn't
it's
really make a lot of sense.
it's funny. The things that actually really stand out to me for this profile that I think have some validity are that they figure that this person had to have worked in a job or industry that gave access to potassium cyanide. Those are the gold and silver mining industries, film processing at the time, or some form of chemical manufacturing, which also means that it's a low-wage job, which would fuel the anger issue that they talked about because they'd said in this profile making low wage, so therefore in kind of a semi-poverty situation.
Wait.
But why would it be a low-wage job? There's lots of good-paying jobs in, the chemical industry and things like that.
It would be what somebody would consider a menial job.
So this is what the profiler believes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The idea
And I can
being
see
that-
somebody, if I work in a chemical factory, and I make an okay living, but this job sucks, then they're angry because their lot in life is terrible to them.
I want to address the fact that somebody could walk out of their job with something like that. That
Yeah.
seems wrong. to
That's a
me.
little scary.
Really scary.
It's a good question about how tightly they control that stuff.
Seems like something that's that lethal. Maybe you put a lock on it.
Now, I've got one thing to say about that. 2 words. Aldrich Ames, CIA, big Russian mole, was walking out of CIA headquarters with grocery bags of secret documents.
Seems like they
sounds-
should have kept a lock on that too.
Yeah, what I'm saying, if the CIA is that sloppy, what do you think about this chemical company over
Yeah,
here?
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's scary
Yeah.
though. That's really scary.
Oh, yeah, to think that if this is right, this person could have at any time lashed out again in some method using this poison.
Yeah.
I think we're lucky that
Yeah.
they didn't. I don't know why it didn't happen again, but it's scary.
Well,
Maybe
that
they
is
did
just
kill
crap out of me.
themselves.
That is a good question as to why it didn't happen again.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be as simple as one of the people, and this isn't something that I've seen in the theories, this is me just kind of spitballing, but it's possible that one of the people that was involved in this whole thing made themselves a victim.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, one of the ways to be remembered is to die with everybody else.
Yeah.
Also
Well,
a good way to not get caught.
what I was actually thinking is that one of the people here, essentially the person who did it, wanted to kill one person who was probably one of the early people to die. Because the question is why Tylenol? Why do you pick Tylenol for the delivery vehicle? And why is it that a certain number of people die, but then it's all pulled from the shelves, and then you don't do it again?
This is always Joe's theory, though. With any big murder, it's always that one person was the victim, and then you just kind of did a couple other people for fun.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
the copycats prove that that's actually what happened.
It's a good MO,
That's true.
actually.
I
But
mean, there's the woman. There was a woman that, oh gosh, I can't remember what pill she poisoned, but she poisoned her husband, and then stuck a couple of bottles back on the shelves to cover her tracks to make
Right.
it look like her husband was the first victim. People continually did that.
yeah,
Now, with the woman that I'm thinking of specifically, she, in a lot of these people didn't know what they were doing, and they left trace evidence behind, whether it was in the pills that were poisoned or stuff in their house. But I didn't see anything that said that something like that was found in the victims' houses. And you would think that if it was somebody who was trying to kill that person and then covered up, there would have been something discovered. When crime CSI shows were not the thing and everybody didn't consider themselves an expert, they just didn't think anybody would know.
Yeah.
yeah, but it may be. Some people are smarter than other people.
True.
Criminals get busted pretty readily and fast because they tend to be kind of dumb. But if somebody was a little smarter than the average bear, then they could have probably covered their tracks a little more carefully.
Or just took more time with it.
yeah.
And-
So
yeah.
let's think about this for a second. Now, you want to murder your husband or your wife for the life insurance money or whatever, and you have to pick a way. So if so, let's say your wife, you're going to kill your husband. Your husband has chronic back pain. He's taking pills pretty much constantly for it, and like. If it wasn't chronic back pain, say for example your husband has severe allergies and he's having to take Benadryl capsules for it, well that's your delivery vehicle. So if I was going to look at this, because if you're planning on killing a specific person, you can't get these all out there on the shelves and then into this guy's medicine cabinet waiting, because I have Advil in my medicine cabinet. I take it rarely because I rarely get a headache or anything like that. So in other words, if you're planning on murdering somebody with the Tylenol, you've got to be pretty certain that he's going to eat the poison pill very shortly before the whole thing hits the newsstands.
True.
So if I were the FBI, I'd go back and I'd look at all the victims and all their families and friends and loved ones and stuff. Find out the victim who had chronic pain issues and ask yourself who wanted him to be dead. And I think that you might have the person there.
Maybe.
And that's pure
I mean,
conjecture on my part, really.
that's a course of action. But unfortunately, I imagine at this point, 30-some years later, that course of action has probably been run dry 100 times.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. But let's go to our final suspect. Our last suspect is Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah.
It's a potential cover-up.
They did have access to the pills.
Yeah, exactly right. Because remember we talked about here when we were going through this is that Johnson & Johnson appeared from the beginning to be as much a victim of the entire thing as the people who died. And they did seem to do everything right. They were taking all the steps. Everybody thought they were great, and their PR folks were working overtime. That might be what they wanted you to believe, is that they were the innocent victims.
Yeah, I like this theory a lot.
It's really interesting. I had never, ever thought about this. There's a guy by the name of Scott Bartz. He wrote a book called The Tylenol Mafia. And I'm really sad I wasn't able to get a hold of it ahead of time, but I'm going to track this book down. But he brings up some points about this story that are really hard to ignore, and all in all, rather disturbing. First off, do you remember how I said that all those bottles of Tylenol were gathered up from the stores and had to be tested?
Yeah.
Johnson & Johnson did the testing.
Oh.
It wasn't the FBI or the police or some independent lab. It was Johnson & Johnson who was doing it.
Oh.
Which means that they could technically control the results that got published about how much was found.
But are you sure about that? Because I find it hard to believe that the FBI would turn over criminal evidence and not keep it in their own possession. I find that really, really hard to believe.
This is based
if you want to use that at a trial, once it's left the chain of evidence, it's useless in a trial.
I'm not going to disagree with you at all, Joe. This is based on the research that Bartz is saying he did. He's saying that Johnson & Johnson was doing all of the testing and that it wasn't a crime lab.
I mean, it's conceivable, but I still find it really hard to believe.
Well, they were the ones who did the recall, so they were the ones who had a lot of the pills. It's
Yeah,
not
I know.
like they
And that
were-
might be, hey, we've already got them all here. Let us just test them, and we'll save you the time, and we'll incur
we have
the
the
cost.
labs. It's all, you know.
No, I know. I read an interview with this guy in which he said that the FBI just shipped all this stuff straight to Johnson & Johnson, who destroyed it. But I'm really finding that hard to believe.
Yeah, it does make you lift an eyebrow.
Yeah.
Here's the next thing. There was a victim, we talked about her a couple of times now, Mary Reiner.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing with Mary. She had just come home from the hospital because she had just had a baby.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's-
congratulations, Mary.
well, that's really depressing now.
Yeah, I know. It's not so happy. Tylenol was the major brand used by hospitals for pain relief.
Okay.
It was their go-to, and they liked the extra strength Tylenol.
Right.
Mary didn't have in her home a bottle of extra strength Tylenol. She had a bottle of regular Tylenol, which was her preferred brand.
Style?
Yeah,
Style, yeah.
yeah. It was her. It was the one that she liked. The pills that were in that bottle were not regular strength; they were extra strength Tylenol.
Okay.
Bart speculates that what happened is that she was sent home from the hospital with a single day's dosage of extra strength Tylenol and said, well, I can keep them in this little thingy you gave me, or I can just drop them in my Tylenol bottle. So she put them in the bottle that she already had in her home.
How many pills were in the bottle?
There would have been a day's dosage. I think it's one dose every 4 hours,
4 to
typically
6.
4 to 6.
Usually
so they gave
2 pills every 4 to 6 hours.
2 pills every 4 to 6 hours, 24 hours. That's like 10 pills,
Yeah.
10 plus pills, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Minus what she took, of course. But the thing is, all of the pills that were found and identified to have been laced with potassium cyanide were in stores. No hospital stock was listed as tampered and contaminated with.
Were the rest of the pills in her regular pill bottle extra strength or regular?
They were all the extra strength. It was almost as if it was an empty bottle.
So I do this. I don't know if you guys do this or not, but like when I go to the store, it's cheaper and more effective to just buy like a big bottle of the pills, but you don't want to keep that in your medicine cabinet, so you keep that someplace else, but you just keep refilling, and it's just whatever bottle you had. So I guess it's possible that she was doing that.
Yeah, and that's must have taken the hospital pills that she was given.
Yeah, but she
and
could have
dumped them
also
in.
purchased extra strength. I mean, she was pregnant. She was 9 months pregnant. You kind of bump it up a little bit, I feel like.
That's probably true.
You know,
yeah.
it gets a little more painful.
So she bumped it up to a large bottle of extra strength, but
Maybe.
she had her regular bottle left over. That's possible.
I don't know.
I don't know. I never saw anything saying that was in her house. But here's what the problem is.
Sure.
This begs to say that the tampering happened somewhere other than between store and the consumer.
Yeah,
Because
somewhere further.
She
up
had
the supply
pills
chain.
from the hospital.
Because she had pills
Yeah.
from the hospital.
Yeah, maybe.
No, it raises issues because everything we've told was somebody pulled them off the shelf, tampered them, put them back.
So maybe
now
you
that
grabbed the
means
wrong bottle.
Say that
What?
again?
No, I mean, it's also possible that you grab an extra or a regular strength Tylenol instead of an extra strength Tylenol. And
Oh,
you
the person that
got
was
all
tampering?
of the pills, yeah, and you're just throwing pills back in bottles, and
Yeah.
you know, you got a bunch of extra strength in a regular one and stick
That's
it back on the
possible.
shelf.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
That's absolutely possible.
And also,
I don't know.
And also, Bart's wrote his book, and he probably should note that he used to work for Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, he's a whistleblower.
and he was fired. But so he might have a bit of a bias there. But,
Yeah.
But this does suggest that the pills were tampered with.
But
Before they hit distribution.
Right.
exactly, it would suggest that, except for like what Devin says. But also, where did Bartz get that from? Is that actually in an FBI report?
I